What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Take Talk Sports Podcast. I'm back again with another little sports update. Not too much has been going on, so I don't have a ton to talk about today, but there has been some kind of changes in momentum in some NBA playoff series, and as well as the Euros going on. And that's what I'll be talking about today. I'll be mostly focusing on the playoffs and then a little blurb at the end about the Euros for those of you who want to know what's happening and the big events going on there. So first things first, obviously, the NBA playoffs. The Jazz are up 2-1 on the Clippers. They were up 2-0, and then the Clippers won game three, obviously. And now this is a really interesting series because I think the Jazz have it in the bag. However, if Donovan Mitchell is hurt, which is what it looks like because he was limping off the court with a bag of ice around his ankle at the end of game three, I don't like the Jazz chances without Mitchell. I think they need Mitchell's big time shot making throughout the game, but mostly in the late game. I think all of these games are going to be close. And Mitchell is, we saw it last year. We're seeing it this year. He's just a guy who hits big shots all game, but especially in clutch and at the end of games. So they're really going to need him if they want to pull out this series. I think it's possible the Clippers take the next game and even the series, and then the Jazz end up getting their momentum back. Hopefully, Mitchell gets healthy and then they get their momentum back. I still think the Jazz have that series in hand, but the Clippers are a dangerous team and you can't give them a chance. Next series that just actually ended was the Nuggets. Nuggets were swept by the Suns last night. It wasn't a totally fair series. The Nuggets looked pretty much out of it most of the series, especially the last two games. They really weren't even close to getting any ground. The Suns looked impressive, but at the same time, this was somewhat to be expected of the Nuggets without Murray. He is their big time shot maker. He is their Donovan Mitchell. I'm not saying he's as good as Donovan Mitchell, but he's that guy at the end of games who's going to hit a massive three. They have Jokic who does that a bit more, but I just think Jamal Murray is a bit more of a shot maker, and they really need him, and he's really their key to success. And when you're missing your second best star on your team, it's tough to make any noise, especially against a team that is so hot and so talented like the Suns, with Chris Paul showing that he is, again, one of the best point guards of all time. I'm not going to say he's the best, unlike Mike Malone, but he is one of the best of all time, and it's showing even this late in his career. He's still one of the most dominant players on the court when he's on there. So Nuggets swept by Suns. The next series is the Bucks evened up the Nets series 2-2 yesterday with a win in game four. They've really turned themselves around in a way. I don't think they're playing that much better, but the Nets are slowly losing more and more players. Kyrie just got hurt last night. And obviously James Harden hasn't been playing the entire series. And so also people forget they don't have Spencer Dinwiddie. He got injured way early in the season, but he'd be a major point and piece in the playoffs, but they don't have him. So they're gonna keep fighting, and KD is gonna have to be the superstar that he is. And I can still see the Nets winning this series with KD alone, just because he's KD. But without Kyrie and without Harden, if the Bucks even step it up a little bit, it's gonna be hard for them to beat them. I think the Bucks still need to play better. I think Giannis still needs to do a bit more. But they're definitely getting a bit more of their rhythm, and they're starting to hit more shots. If Drew Holiday can start hitting shots, then they're going to be even tough to beat with Kyrie. The next series is the 76ers lead the Hawks 2-1. I don't know too much about the series because I haven't really been watching it. It doesn't totally interest me, but I do know that the 76ers are just too strong for this inexperienced playoff-wise Hawks team. So they're up 2-1. I'd be surprised if the Hawks maybe get another game in this series, but I think the 76ers are just too good and they're going to clean up this series fairly quickly. That does it for what's going on in the playoffs, in the NBA playoffs now. Just a little message to touch on the Euros. If you didn't see, it was a big headline, at least in the sports world. Christian Eriksen of the Denmark international team collapsed on the pitch mid-match, and actually they figured out that he suffered cardiac arrest on the pitch. And as the doctors said on the pitch, he was quote unquote gone until they resuscitated him. If you weren't watching, on the pitch, he was receiving CPR and a defibrillator. They were actually reviving him on the pitch. It was really a horrible sight to see in such a joyful, or what is supposed to be a joyful event. But big props to the Denmark players who actually formed a wall. They locked arms, formed a wall around Ericsson, so the cameras could not see what was happening. And it was really a sight to behold. The players were crying, the crowd was crying. I mean, a man almost died on the pitch. Luckily, he was saved, and he's now in the hospital being treated. So he's still fighting, but it seems to be that he's going to be okay long term. But it's really unbelievable because if you don't know, Christian Eriksen is actually one of the best players in the world. He's not talked about because he's a very quiet demeanor, but he's one of the better midfielders in the world. He's easily Denmark's best player, and so he just completely collapsed, and it was a really sad sight to see. But the happy part is that he is okay, and he did survive, and he's going to be okay. But it really was something to behold, and the stories about it and what the players did to protect him. It's really honorable for the players what they did for Christian Eriksen. So that was the biggest story out of the weekend. It kind of sucked all the air out of all the performances with good reason. But just one performance that I will touch on because it's my team and hopefully it's yours now. England won their first match and looked good, and I believe it was their first ever time winning their first match in an major international competition. So that's kind of cool. They won 1-0 against Croatia. Croatia obviously was a finalist in the last World Cup a few years ago. They weren't that great yesterday, but England wasn't either, but they did end up scoring, and they ended up being really good at holding that lead and holding possession. So that was really good to see. Gareth Southgate, their manager, had a really odd starting 11. A lot of people didn't totally understand it, but it ended up working out. And obviously, you'll take it if it gets to a win. They have two more group stage matches coming up, which will be fun to watch, as well as matches happening almost every day. So check those out if you are interested in watching any of them. Again, look for those teams that I talked about in the last video: Portugal, France, Belgium, and England. Look for those teams. Those are going to be the most fun for you guys to watch. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a little sports update today. Hopefully I will have a different topic or a big topic to talk about in my next video. If you have any ideas that you want me to make a video on, please let me know, and I will be sure to make a video on it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.